Welcome to another episode of Jammin' with Jason. Hey, before we get started today, I wanted to let you know this episode is sponsored by C-Risk Academy. Now, did you know that C-Risk Academy is the #1 on-demand and webinar training platform for internal auditors and professionals in risk management and compliance? With hundreds of on-demand courses and webinars each month, you are sure to find training and certification courses that are relevant to help you do your job better. Their on-demand training gives you the ability to study anywhere, anytime, and on any device, so you can fit in your professional development on your schedule, and you receive a CPE certificate for each course you complete. C-Risk Academy is also running a special for listeners of the podcast where you can save 50% on all courses through November 30th. All you need to do is click on the link in the show notes and use the coupon code JAMMING2019 when you register to get the 50% off discount. So make sure to click on the link in the show notes and get your 50% discount today when you use the coupon code JAMMING2019. Welcome to Jammin' with Jason Mefford, a show where we discuss topics relevant to chief audit executives and professionals in audit, risk, and compliance. We discuss the technical and soft skills needed to navigate the minefields of organizations. You hear best practices and practical advice for helping you advance your career, and we'll even talk about music, mindfulness, and psychology, because we can. So sit back and relax while you listen to the #1 podcast in the world for internal auditors, unscripted and unedited. Welcome back to another episode of Jamming with Jason. Hey, my friends, I'm so glad to have you here with me this week. Before we get started into our discussion today, I just wanted to take a moment and pause and express some gratitude. And the reason for that is I am very grateful for what I have. Now, in the United States, we have a holiday called Thanksgiving, which happens to be on Thursday of this week. Now, Thanksgiving, traditionally it's a time, since we're in the Northern Hemisphere, where in the old days, the farmers would have brought in the crops. We're kind of done harvesting everything. And it's really a time to kind of pause at that point and just be grateful or thankful for everything that we do have. So I wanted to pause today in kind of the spirit of Thanksgiving for this week and just express some gratitude. So first off, I'm grateful that you are listening to me. I'm grateful that we're able to, through the use of technology, be able to record and share this information with literally people all over the world. I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for the life that I have, that I'm able to live here in California, that I have a beautiful wife and great life here. I'm really grateful for all of the experiences and knowledge that I've gained over the years. Some people ask me, they say, "Hey, Jason, how did you come up with the risk-based internal audit framework?" as an example. And, I can say, well, look, it's really from 25 plus years of studying, of putting things into practice and actually, exercising and going through experiences. But it's also 25 plus years of making some mistakes. And, I'm also grateful for the mistakes that I've made throughout my life because, excuse me, I've been able to grow from that. So again, like I said, I just wanted to start off, at the beginning of this episode, express gratitude to you and also, encourage you this week as well to express your gratitude to those people in your life that mean a lot to you, and just kind of stop in reflection and realize how much you really do have. So much of the time we can we can get caught up in these feelings of lack and, oh, I don't have this yet, or I haven't accomplished that. But it really is good for us to stop and pause and remember how blessed we are and how grateful we can be for everything that we do have. Now, probably in a future episode, I'll explain a little bit more about gratitude, because actually gratitude is one of the emotions, because you'll hear me talk more about emotional intelligence as well. But gratitude is one of the highest vibration frequency emotions that we can feel. It's right up there at the top. So the more time that you can actually spend feeling grateful, the happier you will be, and the easier your life will be as well. Okay, so that's kind of the start. Now let's get into what we're actually talking about today. And that is about showing your value to management. Now, I've worked with a lot of chief audit executives and internal auditors all over the world. And, one of the things that I see them or hear them saying often is, I feel frustrated, or I am ignored by management. And when you feel ignored, that really, it leads to those feelings of kind of being left out, about not being valued, and it really sucks. Okay. Better would be, where we have an opportunity, instead of feeling frustrated or ignored, we have an opportunity to actually align better with management and actually be able to provide more value. Now that feels way better, right? We feel more confident, we feel more valued, and really, it can help us in going into the office every day or every week, because we actually feel valued. We're confident in what we're doing, and we're happy to actually be providing the value that we know internal audit can provide to our organizations. And that is such a great feeling. Now, I've been working really hard to get the certified risk-based internal auditor course up and going, and it's really ready now as you're hearing this. So you can go out and actually get registered. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is, so many people have kind of expressed some of these feelings of wanting to show or prove their value to management. That one of the things that I decided to do as I finished up the course was to actually include a bonus module on how to demonstrate your value to management. And again, as I said, so many people have kind of expressed this to me that I thought, you know what, I'm going to take and record a special module just to help you go through and kind of understand better how to do this. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about it today on the podcast, but really, if you want the deeper dive on this and actually learn how to do this, how to calculate it, how to do kind of all of the step-by-step stuff, if you're interested in that, if you're the kind of person that would like to have more of that information, as I said, that is a free bonus now in the new certified risk-based internal auditor course. And I'm bringing this up again too, because C-Risk Academy is running a special on this where you can save 60% on that course, but you have to register before the end of November. So what that means is that's this week. So if you want to be able to get this free bonus on how to demonstrate your value to management, make sure to register and sign up for that course this week. Okay, so let's start jumping in now and talk more about how you can show your value to management. And before I get into that, I can remember earlier in my career, and there was a position. It was kind of I had to apply for it was kind of a community opportunity. Okay. And I had to create or fill out an application to be accepted into this program. And I also needed to have, besides that application, I needed to have letters of reference. So people actually saying that, hey, Jason is a great guy. You should let him in this program. And so at the time I was working at Arthur Andersen, and I remember, approaching our managing partner in the office at the time. And, I expressed to him because he was encouraging me to reach out and get more involved in the community. And so I found this opportunity and I said, hey, Bruce, I'm putting in for this, but I need to have I need you to do a letter of recommendation for me for this. And I remember we were standing in the hallway in the office, and when I asked him that question, he kind of scrunched up his face a little bit. And he says, Jason, I'm not going to write you a letter of recommendation. At first, I was like, what do you mean? You're asking me to do this. Why are you, why are you unwilling to do this? And I think he probably saw that I looked a little confused too. And that's why he followed right up by saying, Jason, I'm not going to write it for you. You need to be comfortable in tooting your own horn. If you write it, I will sign it, but you need to be comfortable in actually, tooting your own horn. Now, where tooting your own horn comes from, I'm a musician as well as, a rock star in audit, but in playing the guitar, but I also play the trumpet. So when I was younger, I actually, during grade school, middle school time, I actually played in the school band and played trumpet. And so, again, having a trumpet or any other instrument doesn't really do you any good unless you play it. And so, this whole idea of tooting your own horn just means, not in being like an egomaniac, but in just expressing or letting people know some of the good things that you're doing. And so again, like that with that letter of recommendation, he said, look, you know better than anybody else why you're so good. And so, why you should qualify for this particular opportunity. So you go write the letter. I'll read it, I'll sign it, but I'm not going to take the time to do that. I want you to do that so that you can learn how to toot your own horn. So one of the things that I see often, again, in discussing this, how do you show your value to management? Well, one of the first things you have to do is you actually have to toot your horn. You actually have to let them know some of the good things that you're doing. You have to be willing to actually share with them what you're doing and some of the ways in which you have actually helped the organization. Now, I know for most of us that have kind of gravitated into the internal audit space, we're not these huge extroverts, right? We're usually introverts. And it kind of reminds me of an old joke, that, and this kind of goes to accountants, but it really kind of goes in line with auditors too. And it goes like this. How can you tell the difference between an introverted accountant and an extroverted accountant? And the answer is the extroverted accountant is looking at your shoes. Okay. So, we are not necessarily programmed to go out and toot our horn. We're just, a lot of times in the background, kind of doing our work, doing what we need to do. But if you want people to value or recognize the value that you are creating or helping the organization with, you're actually going to have to be vocal about that. You're actually going to have to find ways to be able to share that. And again, I go into, more of the ways that you can actually do that in that separate module, because I don't have enough time today to get into everything, but you have to find a way to do that. So that's the first thing. If you want to show your value to management, the first thing you need to do is start tooting your horn. Okay. Now, another thing that you need to do, and this gets back to some of the topics that we've discussed before around independence. And again, this is what I end up seeing. The definition of internal auditing from the IIA starts off by saying internal audit is an independent and objective assurance and consulting function. Okay. And we focus a lot on those two words, independent and objective. Well, the truth is, anybody who is objective can provide assurance. But because that word independent shows up before the word objective in the definition, I think that we probably are focusing too much of our attention on trying to be independent. Now, the word independent, if you kind of think about the difference between independence and objectivity, you can think of independence meaning freedom, objectivity being more unbiased, right? So objectivity kind of about the way in which we're able to perform our job being unbiased. Therefore, the conclusions that we're making from our testing are unbiased and therefore are more valid. Now, the independent side is the one where it gets a little bit tricky, okay? Because the reality is most internal audit functions are not truly independent. You're still working for the organization. You may say, that you functionally report to the audit committee, but the reality is usually the administrative reporting executive is the one who's determining compensation, is determining and doing, things like performance evaluations as well. And so you're not as independent as we usually want to believe that we are. Okay, and I've talked about that before, and you're going to hear me, excuse me, keep talking about that in the future. Now, it is important and it's good for us to have that direct reporting with the board or the audit committee. And the reason for that, again, is independence is supposed to represent the freedom for us to decide the areas that we believe are most important to audit, the freedom to audit it the way that we believe it needs to be audited, the freedom to make the conclusions and report the conclusions the way we believe it needs to be done. And don't get me wrong, that is important, and it's very, very beneficial for the organization if we are both independent and objective. But as I said, I think a lot of times people think they're more independent than they really are. And here's where you get into trouble, is sometimes there will be very well-meaning chief audit executives or other auditors who believe in order for me to really be independent, I can only audit the areas that I think are important. I need to be the one that comes up with exactly what my audit plan is. Nobody else really provides me with the input. Yes, maybe I'll ask, to get some ideas, but it's me who decides what I'm going to audit. And I'm going to do that based on what I think is most valuable for me to do in the areas in my audit plan. So I'm going to come up with it, then I'm going to get it approved, right? Again, and a lot of times that's just kind of rubber stamped. And then I go out and I do my work. Here's where the problem comes into that. If you believe or want to be so independent that you're acting as like an independent island, then what happens most often is others don't see you as a team player. They don't see you as someone who is really there to help the organization. They see you as someone that is trying to push a particular agenda. You know better than they do. And if you've ever met anybody that you've talked to that you believe thinks they are better than you, how do you feel? You normally don't like those people. So as internal audit, if we continue to just try to play on this independence card, and I know better, I'm going to audit this area, and if you don't understand, well, that's just too bad, then we're going to have problems. Okay? So the second tip that I want to share with you today on how to show your value to management is actually focus on areas where they think there is value. And this is kind of the tie back into risk-based internal auditing. When we focus more on the key objectives of the organization, on the things that management is most concerned about, and are trying to help, provide insight, provide guidance, provide assurance on those particular areas to help management do their job better, they're going to feel that we are much more valuable. If they see us as a police officer that comes in and tries to catch people doing things wrong, and it's because we think that this area is more important, and so we're choosing to audit it, you're going to have a very different relationship with management, and they're probably not going to value what you are doing. If instead, if you take more of a risk-based approach, if you are eliciting the suggestions and trying to find out again and align your efforts with what management is concerned with, it also aligns with what they think is valuable. And so again, as you're doing work in those areas and you bring back your results, by their very nature of the work that you are doing, they're going to see it as being more valuable. So let me just give you a crazy example, right? Let's say that, for some reason we decide that payroll is a big risk and we need to go out and test all of these controls related to payroll, because it represents a really big number in the organization. And so we go out, we do this audit, we come back, maybe we found some issues, and we report back to management, and we're really proud because we come back and we go, hey, we found something like maybe $100,000 of an opportunity for the organization, right? That maybe some of the payroll was being done wrong, and we can save the company, or there's some kind of value creation of $100,000. So we take that, we're proud of it. We report it back. And a lot of times the managers go, okay, whatever, right? Why are you dealing with that area? And we're all proud of ourselves thinking, well, look, I just saved the company $100,000. But management's looking at us and saying, why are you focusing on that area where you have $100,000 impact? I've got a 10 or 20 or $50 million impact over here that I'm worried about. So wouldn't it be much better if we actually develop the relationship with management and focus our efforts more on those higher exposure areas where they're actually concerned? They're going to find much more value to it. And also, we're going to be focusing on areas where the impact or exposure level is much greater, therefore also showing or providing more value to the organization. Would you rather come back with a report that saves the company $100,000 or one that helps them fix a $20 million problem? Well, I'd rather be on the 20 million side. Okay. So that's kind of the second thing that I wanted to share with you today. And again, how to calculate that, how to do it, kind of how to go through that whole process so that you're, more risk-based in what you're doing. You're aligning better with the key objectives and with what management is talking about. That's really the whole certified risk-based internal audit course. I can't teach you all of that in 20 or 30 minutes on a podcast. But if you've got 28 hours to go through the course, I can teach you much, much more on that. So again, with that, and in that course as well, like I said, I'm offering or providing a free bonus on a separate module on how to exactly go through and calculate and show your value to management. Because we don't need to keep going forward feeling like we're ignored and left out. We can align, we can become more confident, we can feel valued. We just have to change a little bit of the way that we're doing this. Now, before I wrap up, I know there's going to be some naysayers out there that are thinking, well, Jason, you can't have your whole audit plan just what management wants you to do. That means that we're not being independent. Well, that's not what I'm advocating. I'm not advocating that everything on your audit plan is just some request from management. What I am advocating is that you actually understand your organization better and that you align more of what you are doing to what management really values. Because again, if you want to be valued by management, you've got to be providing some value to them as well. All right. So with that, I think I'm going to kind of wrap up for this week's episode. As a reminder, as I started off with to begin with, take some time this week to actually pause and reflect and see what you've been able to accomplish this last year and what you're really grateful for. But take it to the next level. Don't just feel the gratitude, but actually express the gratitude. So as you think about some of those important people in your life, those could be coworkers, those could be friends, they could be family. As you start thinking about what you're grateful for, you're going to think of a name, a face is going to pop into your head. Take some time this week to actually express authentic gratitude to them. Write them a card, send them a text, an email, whatever, but just let them know how grateful you are and how much you actually appreciate having them in your life. It not only helps you to feel more grateful, but it also reaches out and lifts up other people as well. And it makes a huge, huge impact in this world. So with that, my friends, we're going to close up for today. That's a wrap for this week. But go forth, keep on rocking in the audit world, be grateful, and I will catch you on the next episode of Jammin' with Jason. And that's a wrap. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Jamming with Jason. Keep on rocking in the audit world. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you later on the next show. If you'd like to earn continuing professional education for listening to today's episode, head on over to C-Risk Academy at ondemand.criskacademy.com. And that's C as in the letter C, riskacademy.com. Not only do you get a CPE certificate, but you also will have access to the video version of today's show. The views and opinions expressed on this show are that of the individuals and not of their respective organizations.